All right, so it being on or about 6:30, I call the December 16th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission to order. The meeting is being conducted remotely over Zoom. Attendance by board and commission members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count towards a quorum. Let's begin, as we always do, with a roll call vote to establish quorum. I think you're muted still, but we'll accept that. Carol present.
Grossman present.
Shield present.
All right, so let's begin with our first order of business. We have Tufts Farm Winter Plan. Hey, Dan, how are you?
Great. How are you, Ben?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Before you get started, I just wanted to acknowledge quickly, I was at the CPC meeting I think, last Thursday, and just the resounding support from everyone who actually went out and visited your farm. Having done it myself, I just can't echo it enough how awesome of a job you've been doing over there. I think all of us feel that we're very lucky to have you.
Thank you.
And I hope that sets the tune for your presentation.
Well, thanks. That's nice to hear. And yeah, we appreciated the support of the CPC group. Came out for the tour. It was a surprisingly nice day. It was kind of a chilly day, but it warmed up when we had the tour. And I think folks saw the vision, saw what we're trying to do there. And, it was nice to hear from them, because sometimes it's hard to see what you've accomplished when you're working on it and you're not all the way to where you want to be yet. So it was a nice day for us.
We should have done some before and after photos.
I have a couple of photos on my phone from the day we signed the lease, and there's a little video of Reggie and I walking up the driveway, and every so often I pull that out as a reminder.
It's a different place.
It is, and it's coming along. And to that end, we're here to talk about the plan for the winter, and I'll keep it as short and sweet as I can, and happy to answer any questions or provide any additional detail if I don't provide enough. So the winter plan is essentially very similar to last winter. We have a lot fewer sheep on the site this winter than we did at our peak last winter, because we're planning on lambing this winter. Last year, our first year on the farm, we were keeping a larger flock because we weren't lambing them, and we needed them to graze in the summer. So right now we've got 168 sheep on the property, compared with over 200 at our peak. There's 5 rams on the property for breeding, and some of them are working right now. Actually, we're down to 4 rams. One of them is retired and moved on. He finished his work. So we've got 168 ewes, 4 rams on the property. We have 1 miniature donkey and 1 dog on the property. Miniature donkey's name is Eric. He's there to be a friend of the sheep. He grew up with some of the sheep that are in our flock, and he's there to be a friend of the sheep and to entertain us, which he does for hours on end. A beautiful donkey. And there's a dog there now, a dog named Thorvir, who is a great big snuggle bug, big fluffy white dog. So we talked about breeding the sheep. We began breeding the sheep on site on the property in tranches. So we have 22 sheep in one breeding group, and they started breeding October 20. So the earliest lambs would be March 14th. 28 ewes in another breeding group. They started on November 4th. So the earliest lambs would be March 29th. And then there's 56 ewes that started breeding November 20th. That lambing would be April 14 at the earliest. And then the remaining 62 ewes have not begun breeding yet, but probably will before the end of this week. So 5 months out on them. They'll be lambing out on pasture somewhere else. In terms of feeding plans, it's very similar to last winter, although last winter we tried a lot of silage bales, and I wasn't I wasn't satisfied with the results, so we're going to go back to mostly dry hay over the silage bales. The silage bales they're more effective with cows than they are with sheep. There's some use of that in the sheep world, but you need some particularly sophisticated producers on the silage making side to feed that out to sheep. So we had a lot of waste hay that we had to compost. So we're going back to dry hay. Same source though. The source of our silage bales last year he was great to work with, and we just took in a delivery from him last night of 126 bales, and it's gorgeous hay. We also are excited that Charlie McNamara's farm is back online. Charlie is just around the corner from us. He's in Stoughton on West Street. And we used to buy hay from Charlie for a long time. Charlie Mack used to be, he was head of the Department of Agriculture in Massachusetts at one point in time. He's a contemporary of my dad. So Charlie's farm is back online, and his grandson Josh is producing hay up there. We bought a big load on Saturday, and that was really good looking hay. So we're excited to work with Josh, and proud that there's another generation picking up the charge over there on West Street. Sheep will be in containment pens. We've expanded those pens a bit, and they'll have access to pasture in good weather. Time they won't damage that pasture. So right now they could be out there. There are some that have some access to pasture right now. They're doing well on the property, and manure management. Al, we're taking advantage of your tip on the lime, and that's working great for us. So right now everything's frozen rock solid, which is a kind of a benefit in sheep farming in the winter. It's nice when things are frozen. So that's working out for us, but we've got a stockpile of lime on the property, and we're liming regularly as needed. We just got in another big load of wood chips, some from the town and some that we purchased through Chip Drop. So we're excited about that. Town has been continues to be a great partner to us, really helpful. And, that's about the size of it for us. No big expansion plans on the animals front at this point. We hope to bring in chickens in the future, as we've talked about, but really that's primarily for the farm stand, which is still out at the road. We'd like to relocate that to the parking lot first. So we're not in a rush to add anything else to take care of until we have a way to sell the eggs.
Awesome.
Great. Are there anything I missed? Anything I left out? Any questions I could answer for anybody?
No, Dan, I think that I'll defer to other members of the commission as well, but that was just a great winter update. I'm really looking forward to your next CPC meeting. And at the last one, I was wrestling toddlers throughout the majority of it. I'll try to dedicate some time to the side and advocate for you as best I can, because I think it's a deserving project. And you've just been a great steward there, and we're lucky to have you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. But, you guys have been great to work with. Jen's been wonderful to work with in the town, Todd and everybody over at the DPW. And I often say DPW, but I think it's more bifurcated than that. I think we've had help from building management and electrical and everybody else. And I bucket that all as DPW in my head, but it's been a great experience, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody have anything else they want to add or questions?
Sounds good.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Have a great night. Happy holidays.
You too.
Happy holidays.
Thanks.
It's probably the meeting to be saying that to people at the end. Up next, we're moving on to continued hearings and possible deliberations. 24 Summer Street, which is a notice of intent for the removal of trees and the establishment of lawn.
I'll just give her a second to log in there. I think you don't hear much when you're being promoted.
Hello. How are you?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good.
So do you have a plan you want to show us?
Yeah, we uploaded it onto Permitize.
Okay.
So it should be viewable from the app.
See if I can download it. Bumbling through one screen. Give me a minute here.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you see my screen?
I can.
So I think this is what you proposed by way of a restoration plan.
Exactly.
And it's also a notice of intent for some new work on the site.
I don't think so.
As far as new work, you mean?
The establishment of new lawn area.
Yeah, just that side corner. So I have an area that I haven't touched that's basically from the sidewalk, probably about 50 feet in. I just wanted to basically be able to take down and mow that down flat. Not even flatten it out per se, but just be able to get rid of the abundance of overgrowth that's there right now.
Can you see my screen? I think I had an issue with
Yeah,
Adobe.
I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it's back.
All right, so I'm just doing the web version now. I think being signed out of work gives me no work permissions for Adobe here.
Yeah, no worries.
So we have a vernal pool in the back.
Yep.
You're proposing restoration plantings of 10, is it 10 high bush blueberries?
Well, it's 20 total. It's
20
two rows.
total.
Yeah, 2 rows of 10. Basically, it's a 10 by 40 area that I have. Right now, I just kind of have that like kind of generally staked out. I just kind of went by the plot of the land and basically just made a 10 by 40 area because I know the high bushes, you want to have them, like I said, by thumb, 8 feet apart. And then you want them between 4 to 6 feet. I was thinking if we were going to make it more of like a kind of a fencing type of thing, we'll just have it be 4 feet apart and it will just grow in naturally. And that would go right from the property line. And then basically that would go to about halfway over to the back of the house. If you were looking at it from the deck, it'd line up about with the deck area.
Okay. So what is proposed between the blueberry bush buffer and the lawn?
That is basically just a space of land that it's just dirt right now. I have a couple of stumps there, and then basically it's just dirt. I'd be, like I said, I was going to have it I was looking to have it be a wraparound area as far as for the lawn eventually. But this area that I have in the yellow is just an area that's overgrown right now. That area that's in between is actually, just like I said, dirt, and then there's a few stumps in that area as well.
So I think part of the challenge that we're having here is, if this established area or this sort of uncharted area is going to be established as lawn, I don't think this commission's ever permitted lawn within 10, 20 feet of a vernal pool by the buffer zones that we've used on every project since I've been here.
Okay.
So let me show you sort of my recollection of what we had been talking about. And see if we can't find some middle ground to try to resolve this. Here we go. You see my screen?
I do.
So it's my recollection that following the enforcement order, we had a conversation about fixing the enforcement issue, which would have involved planting and not establishing a new lawn area. And then we talked at a site visit. You wanted a little bit more access to the back of the yard and to have some lawn up by the house. But the original restoration plan contemplated 30 trees. We have talked at the last meeting about not wanting to put full-size trees back there, white oaks, red maples. And I think, honestly, that makes sense, given the issues that you had with trees that were there.
Exactly. Yep. Understand.
So this is what was sort of originally talked about. And then following our site visit, you guys decided to do a notice of intent to establish some additional lawn area.
Yeah, because basically everything over there is already down. You know what I mean? It's just overgrowth because I haven't touched it since we got the cease and desist last year.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's my understanding as well. So
Right.
we went out and made sort of a, without having a botanist come out and do a delineation and a survey.
Mm-hmm.
We made sort of an on-site plan as
Yeah.
to what might make sense as a notice of intent. And so we're replanting buffer zone, which was from the edge of the vernal pool essentially up through this section where trees were removed, which sort of comes level to the house. Planting across the back here. And the thought, I think, was there'd be lawn space in exchange for replanting and some extra mitigation.
So
where were the lawns?
So as far, yeah, because that's why. So basically, as far as where it says replace buffer zone on that left side there, that's basically the area that that I was proposing. It's just more of an expanded. That's basically just an expanded zone. That, you know what I mean? It looks like more like, instead of a 10 by 40, you're looking for more like a 20 by 40. Is that what really, I mean? And then really, on the right side here, I see this established line, but like I said, that's already established. There's nothing there. And I actually did do a stake kind of around that where the vernal pool where the markings are laid on that septic plan for where they had determined the vernal pool to be. That's like the dotted line on the proposal that I had. I know it's kind of hard to see because I had the marker in there for the 20 trees.
Yep.
But, you know, so as far as that left side, what do you just basically want me to make that, instead of a 10 by 40, you want to expand that to a bigger corner?
Essentially a bigger corner and then across the buffer. So what we're trying to do is create as much space between the vernal pool and the buffer area as possible before we have established.
So basically you want that entire back area to be like a natural fencing with the high blueberry bushes?
By entire back area, I'm not quite sure what you mean.
So like I'm saying, like how you have it as a V, right, on this plan. So as far as that buffer zone, you want it on the left-hand side. So I'm looking at it right now, this where it says, what does it say? Replace buffer zone. You're talking
replant buffer zone along PVP.
So you want me to do that on the backside of the buffer zone, right? This green area. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and then also up the side here.
So basically, the area that I had said, that 10 by 40-ish area, and then you want basically an established marker in that green section as well.
Correct.
That's from across our yard.
So how many? So how many are you talking in total as far as blue? Does it? So if you want, is 20 still the number that would work for you guys?
So typically, what we've required as a commission is 2-to-1 mitigation, and that would account for trees.
Yeah,
I think, you know, as the chair, I'm one person on the commission. We would want to, I think, talk about it as a board, or be required to talk about it as a board.
Sure.
But I think, you know, you have some dispute as to what trees fell versus were taken down.
Yeah.
I think I would be comfortable with in the neighborhood of 20 bushes to reestablish this buffer zone.
Okay. So if that's the case, then instead of doing the 20 in that designated area, could I maybe do 10 in that area and then just do 10 across that other side in that green section to be able to also kind of re-establish that vegetation area?
I personally don't have an issue with that.
Okay. I mean, that's fine. At this point, like I said, I just want to get this situated. So if that's going to be okay, and basically what you're saying is, instead of doing the 20, I could just do one row of 10, and then I could basically behind that across this, see that dotted line that goes along the where the edge of that tan rectangle is. There's a dotted line. That's where the septic plan had originally designed the buffer zone right there. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So I can just lay more. I can just extend that and keep that going if that's fine. I'll just do like a V. I could do like a V basically and fill that area in.
Okay.
All right, that's fine. I can do that.
I think we should open this up to any members of the commission have any additional comments or questions on this.
Hey, Ben. I just wanted to confirm, that dotted line, I see quite a few on this plan set that you're on right now. Can you just follow with your cursor and then if 24 Summer Street, if you wouldn't mind just confirming that Ben has the correct line. I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So you said it's the dotted line immediately to the right of that tan rectangle?
So when you're looking at the tan rectangle, right? If you
Yep.
look in between the blue lines there's a dotted line that starts, and then about the fourth dot it goes down, and then that green dot it goes back over, and it's like a dotted line.
I got it.
That's the buffer zone that's designated from the septic plan in 2005.
And that follows on the plan, that follows the tree line all the way to would be plan
All
nine.
the way, basically my property line, and then it goes all the way to where the were you one of the ones that came to the site? All right.
I was, yes.
All right. So that 10 by 40 area was the area that I had originally, because I marked it down. I basically ran the footage of the property, and that area was the 10 by 40 area that I came up with, and I ran that section there. But like I said, that line, it goes basically right to where it says that dotted line is. So I could always just extend that and keep that going if that's what it takes. You know what I mean? And just go all the way to like where my fire pit area is.
Yeah.
That area. I can just go basically to right where that area is and just extend it. That's
Yeah, I think that would be a great plan because then that would kind of, with the blueberry bushes, that would kind of help create a natural buffer that would completely isolate your lawn from the vernal pool. I think that would be a good idea.
Exactly. And that way at this point I wouldn't have to deal it basically be on the other side of it. I wouldn't have to deal with it. I could still see it from my kitchen window. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and great. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Sorry about the confusion. I'm not the best.
No, it's hard when you're not driving the plans, right?
Yeah, exactly. When you're out there explaining it, but when you're trying to explain a schematic, it's not exactly as easy as it is on, in person.
So I think we do. My thought here is that we do one more meeting, establish a plan between now and next meeting.
Yep.
To mark out the plantings, make sure everybody's on the same page, and then we can take a vote when we get there.
All right, cool. Yeah. And what I
wanted-
do is I can go back and I can redo this with the blue lines and the blue dots and kind of and expand that to be like a V, so it shows more of like a further area, so that way you know exactly what where I'm talking as far as spacing.
And then historically, we've required 2-gallon plants.
Okay.
And we also, I don't think we've ever done a restoration plan where everything is a blueberry bush. So maybe a mix of wetland plants. I think some appropriate plants might be like spice bush, sweet pepper bush.
Okay.
Things of that nature. There's a handful of nurseries that'll help you through what are appropriate wetland plants.
Okay. And then you said 2-gallon is a planter size for the blueberry. All right, yeah. So as far as time of year, you want me to do it obviously early spring, probably
Yes.
like late March as early as possible.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, because that would work perfect because it's moist soil, it's acidic, it gets a decent amount of light, so it would grow perfect with that. So I think that would work. That would work.
I'll just throw in one thing.
Please.
When you draw the new plan, instead of a line of shrubs, have them sort of polka dot that 10 by 40 foot area.
Okay.
Just so they're not a solid line, it's sort of filling in and then it'll fill in naturally in between.
Okay, so yeah, like a V kind of deal. Like I get what you're saying. I can spread that out a little better.
Okay, and then just the last question for the commission, you usually have a no disturbance zone marker requirement. Is that something that you're requiring and have them show on the plan?
Yes, please.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Yeah, so we require markers that I don't think we've ever actually had a uniform interval, but just that delineate that the area is a wetland resource. And we found that it makes a difference if a house is sold, that people know where the boundary is. And it essentially says no work beyond this point.
Okay.
So we give you those and you shouldn't need more than 4.
All right. I just spread them out.
Give you an idea. Just spread them out. We give you the markers, but you put them on a post.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I can do that for you.
Ben, I got one more thing, if you don't mind.
Please.
I noticed that you said that usually the rule is replace everything twofold.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of you kind of mentioned that you would be agreeing to 20 plants. Should we just now as a commission vote on the number of plants acceptable before the plans get drawn and all that?
I don't know that we need to vote on it, but I think some just
20 sounds fair to
discussion.
me.
I think just some discussion. So typically what we've required is 2-to-1 mitigation.
Sure.
Requiring 20 plants on the site would mean 2 times the 10 trees that were removed.
Yep.
I think there are various points that people on the commission could have about trees are larger than bushes. There were 6 fallen trees that were removed. We could count those towards mitigation. And I just want to make sure that the board is the commission is on board with the decision to allow 20 plants in this circumstance.
I think that's fair.
Nate, I didn't see you. You good?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I think our next meeting is January 6th.
Okay.
Did I get that right, Jennifer?
I believe so, but let me just double check.
Of course. I grabbed the one
Yeah,
downtown in my
January.
office.
January 6th.
All right. So I'm gonna, well, actually, before we do that, any public comment here for 24 Summer Street? All right, seeing none. Motion to continue 24 Summer Street to the January 6th, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Rosman, I.
All right,
Great, thank you.
thank you. See you on the
All right.
6th.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Happy holidays.
You
You
too.
too.
Thanks. Bye.
Up next is 107 Howard Street, which is a notice of intent for a single family home. Hey, Frank,
Evening.
welcome back.
Yep. Hi. How's everybody?
Good.
So since the last time we met, I submitted a revision that's dated December 5th and took into account the comments from the commission as well as Jennifer's report. So the changes, let me just see. I can bring the plan up if that's appropriate.
That'd be helpful.
Okay. This is always kind of a trick for me. I don't. Trying to get to my desktop. Shoot.
Take your time. I just did this on the last one.
I'm sorry, I I don't know.
Do you have the plan open on your
Oh,
on your
no.
screen? So what I usually do is I open all of the plans I think I might
Okay.
show, and then I minimize them on my screen. So
Okay.
that when I get into Zoom, when I just hit share screen, then they show on my desktop and I can just click on it.
Okay.
So if it's
Let me
already
see.
open, you can try share screen and see if it's there.
Okay. No, I can't seem to find it. I do have it open now on my desktop. I don't know how to get.
And you can minimize it.
Oh, okay.
And then see all of us and then share screen.
Okay. Minimize it.
And you should be looking at us again. And then you can
Yep.
go to the bottom and find share screen.
It's a green arrow at the bottom.
Yep. That one I've got. Ah, got it. Let's see if that works.
Could be it.
All right. Great.
There it is.
Okay. So, so the revisions are as follows. The floodplain is listed, and the elevations that go along with it are listed in notes. The 50 and the 100-foot buffer zone from that floodplain have been added to the plan. I've added additional markers at the 50-foot buffer zone so that they're spaced, I think, every 25 feet. I've corrected the detail for those no disturbance signs. And I also added infiltration areas for the stormwater that comes off the roof of the building. So those are the plan changes. And I also submitted separate waiver requests for the two waivers. The one being work within the 50-foot buffer zone, and that one, I mean, I guess I need a waiver. You tell me, but that waiver's required to put a water service from Howard Street up the existing driveway and then into the proposed house. And that's, as I say, that's an existing driveway. So
Frank, you probably want to look at the exemptions.
Yeah, I think you're exempt. Is there not an existing water service?
There's a water service that goes to 109, which is here.
Yeah.
But this proposed house would need a separate water service of its own.
Of course it would. I'm for whatever reason in my head thinking that driveway is a road.
So if the existing water service goes up the driveway, where is it?
Yeah, that I don't know. I don't know. It may or may not be in the driveway. I honestly don't know where the water service is to 109. It could be, somewhere here crossing over their yard. At the time I surveyed it, it wasn't marked out, and so I honestly don't know where that existing water service is.
Where is the proposed one set to go?
It's gonna come off the main in Howard Street here, and it's gonna come up the left side of the driveway. At this point, we're outside of the 50-foot buffer, but then it turns and it comes into the house right here.
Okay. Is there a separation required for the water line from the septic?
There is. It's got to be 10 feet away from the septic
Okay.
system.
That's doable.
Yes.
And then I think there's a waiver for the ACEC, right?
There is for impervious surfaces within the ACEC.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, the roof, as I said, is now to be placed within these infiltration areas. So that's mitigated. Really, that impervious surface is mitigated by just feeding it back into the ground. The driveway, the proposed driveway is here. It comes up, this is all part of the existing driveway. And from this point, I've shown a proposed paved driveway that would lead into the garage is right here. And, you know, you can see the 100-foot buffer zone is here.
Mhm.
And then it actually comes out this way. So I'm just within it. But
you are within it. You are
yeah.
outside of it.
Yeah. And
Well, there's another 100 feet on top of that, so the whole thing is, because it's the ACEC.
Yeah.
so, you know, you can't develop the lot and keep a driveway outside the 100-foot buffer, really. The question is, I guess, can we pave it or can we not? And I, you know, as at the moment, I'm showing it as paved, and I know the task now becomes to try to show some kind of a benefit to the public, correct?
Yeah. And historically, we've allowed infiltration basins to mitigate additions, but I don't know that we've considered it as part of a sort of new construction on a lot. Something I'm wondering here is it possible to do basins for the driveway? To do some type of mitigate, not necessarily basins, but some type of something to manage the stormwater along the driveway.
I could.
A swale or something like that.
I could do that. I'd have to put it on this side of the driveway.
Because of elevation.
Yeah, and well, the leaching system, the septic system is here.
Yeah.
So if I were to try to do a swale, I think what I'd have to do is tilt the driveway, I guess, so that stormwater would flow to the east, and then pick it up in a swale along this edge.
That seems almost a little, and I'm not an engineer, nor do I pretend to be one, but that seems a little counterintuitive, doesn't it?
What, to direct it toward the wetland? Is that your concern?
Yeah, it's kind of, and I don't know that I'm right or wrong about that at all. So I'm open to your interpretation, other members of the commission, but directed towards the wetland down a, relatively steep set back.
Well, I mean, all of the stormwater for this site is flowing in that direction as it is.
Yeah, that's true.
And to try to fight that would probably call for some pretty substantial regrading.
Sorry, you're talking about a swale along the driveway, not perpendicular to the driveway.
No, I mean, it seems to me if you want to try to control and cleanse some of that stormwater, you'd have to tilt the driveway so flow would go from here toward here, and then run a swale along this side of it.
Then bump the water line out a little bit around it.
Yeah. So that actually may call for some additional grading in here, which currently my limit of work is actually shown right at the 50, my grading really ends at the moment right here. I may have to bump that out a little bit, which would still be outside the 50-foot buffer zone, but at the same time, the benefit would be that we'd add mitigation for that stormwater. So it might be worth expanding the work a little bit just to add in that mitigation.
It makes sense to me. Jennifer, do you have input or insight into that?
No, that meets the requirements of your bylaw.
What, expanding the limit of work a little bit to allow for the mitigation? Okay.
Sorry, the swale. And then if you have to push the grading back a little bit, yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that gets us to a place where it would make me personally more comfortable. I think it's just given what we've allowed in the past, the ACEC, the expansion of the buffer, and the particular sensitivity to impervious surfaces. I think I would see that as a benefit. What else do we have here? There's a right of first refusal. Has that been resolved or completed?
Not yet, but that's something you can condition. It's really, the two are totally separate.
Okay.
Right of first refusal is separate from the wetland permit, but it's brought up now just as a heads up. You can condition that no work on the wetland permit is actually done until the Chapter 61 stuff has been resolved, and that should work out fine. There shouldn't be an issue with that.
Okay. Is our conversation here something that we can condition as well? I presume we'd need some type of a revised plan showing a change limit of work and a swale.
Correct. You would need a revised plan. Yeah. The next meeting, I don't know how many weeks away it is.
16th. I'm sorry, 6th, January 6th.
So it's more than 21 days away. So you have to either make sure we get it within that time frame, or you need to continue the hearing.
I could get it to you tomorrow or the day after. So,
yeah, I mean, I would prefer to close if we can.
Okay.
But I guess what happens in the event that, and I'm not accusing you of this, Frank, I'm just making sure that we're on the same page. What happens in the event you don't get the plan in time?
How soon do you need it?
We have to issue a permit within 21 days of closing a public hearing.
Okay.
So it has to be before the next meeting.
Oh, okay. No, I can have it to you this week. No, without question, I can have it to you this week.
Okay.
By midweek, I can get it to you.
Okay. All right. Any comment, questions from the board? Jen, did I miss any staff comment from you?
No.
I don't know if I asked.
No, you got it all. Thanks.
Any public comment here for 107 Howard Street?
I can't see unless you stop sharing. Okay. There's no public comment.
All right, motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Carol motion, Vecchio second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Motion to issue an order of conditions and permit for work for 107 Howard Street, noting the addition of a swale along the driveway, and that revised plans will be in by the end of the week.
Rossman, second.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We still have to vote, Frank. Give us a second.
Oh, okay.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
No, I thank you.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Thanks.
same to you. Good night.
Up next is 642 through 666 Turnpike Street, Walnut Tree Corp. Applicant is PMP, notice of intent for the construction of a commercial building and contractor's yard.
Hello,
Hi.
Samantha, PMP. With me, I have Michael Peralt from my office. I will share the plan.
Thank you.
So last meeting, we talked about Jennifer's staff report. And I kind of informally went through the letter and provided some responses. I have since gotten her a formal response letter. We have also received Eric Diaz's peer review for the stormwater. And a lot of it was stormwater report based, additional documentation needed. So we did go through that and provide him some responses. The main revisions to the plans were definitely involved with the drainage system. We also did edit the snow removal areas per Jennifer's comments. There was one shown over here that was on or next to a drainage swale or rain garden. So we got rid of that and we kind of increased the area on the parking lot back here, or contractor yard. Eric Diaz did request a piping analysis for the drainage system, and that did significantly increase these bottom 3 systems. So we went ahead and made those edits. Along with Jennifer's staff report, we did edit the planting schedule. We got rid of the Japanese Pachysandra and replaced it with some, I think, red cedars, I believe, and provided some additional plantings along this northwestern abutter. I know Eric hasn't gotten the chance to review our responses, but he did reach out to me today and let me know that he is working on it. So, and we are still waiting on the National Heritage decision letter. I know that is in the late stages and we should be getting a draft permit soon, but that is still in the works. If there's any technical questions, me and Mike would be happy to respond.
I don't have technical questions for you, with the exception of I remember talking about snow stocking area, and there was some concern about the discharge. Could you address that, and perhaps you already have in Eric's comments?
Yeah, the snow removal areas, is that what you're?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we did previously show a snow removal area abutting this rain garden up front. We did get rid of that on the plan, and we kind of just added to, text is a little small, to this whole rear area here. This whole back area is lined with a wall, so it won't kind of bleed into the National Heritage Conservation line. And this area is flexible as well. Obviously, it's a big impervious surface, so there is ample room to just kind of move everything to the back here. We did do the calculation, and we're showing about 11% for the snow removal for the site right now.
Jennifer, any further staff comment?
Just a request for the draft stormwater pollution prevention plan. That is something we review during the public hearing process, so that is something requested. That's it for me.
Okay. Any comments from members of the commission? Any public comment here for 642 through 644 Turnpike Street? All right, seeing none. So it looks like we're still sort of wading through some peer review, and we're waiting for the letter. So I assume you guys are okay with the continuance?
We have to. If you don't have the letter from Natural Heritage, we're not legally allowed to put this room.
Yeah, we need the Natural Heritage letter. All right, so motion to continue 642 through 644 Turnpike Street to the January 6, 2024 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson second.
Carol motion, Benson second. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Thank you very much.
They're up again.
Yeah.
Did I freeze?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. So up next is 718 Washington Street, which I'm gonna recuse myself from this one. Phil, I think you'll take over for the purposes of this. And you might just want to do a quick roll call to make sure you have quorum. You do, but 3 people is quorum, just without my vote to acknowledge it.
Understood. So we're going to go on to 718 Washington Street. We can do a quick roll call vote to establish quorum.
Benson present.
Rossman, present.
Vecchio, present. Okay, that is quorum. 718 Washington Street.
Okay. So this is kind of in a similar position as well. We did receive an additional peer review letter from John Chesia. And we did get the revisions back over to him. He has not had the time to do a re-review, but we did want to walk you through the site updates.
Sure, that'd be great.
So here's our drainage plan. It's a little busy right now. We did get rid of the basins in the back, those freestanding walled basins, and we ended up putting it in underground infiltration chambers. So basically everything is underground infiltration at this point, aside from the rain garden in the front there. We also did relocate the limit of work fence, or permanent post and rail fence. It'll have your town's conservation signs on it. So that is outside the 200-foot riverfront buffer. There is nothing proposed within the buffer. And it did help minimize grading in the back here. The wall will be a little less tall than it was previously proposed. So we are waiting on John. But yeah, we believe we addressed all of John's and Jennifer's comments. I think Mike wanted to touch on something regarding the drainage system. But other than that, I'll just be happy to answer questions.
Yeah, some of the concerns that John had was the need for a formal sediment forebay instead of vegetated treatment for the rain garden. And so we've put that forebay in up front. And another point that he wanted us to make sure that we were good with was that along the northern property line, because there's a wall there, the contours do show that the flow of water will go to the rear. But we've actually added some notes to that the contractor is going to be responsible to make sure, as he's putting that wall in, that the grading does not create any low spots, and that he's obligated to make sure that there is no low spots where water will puddle. It will continue to flow along the wall to the rear of the property. There was another concern about the test pits. When we show test pits on a plan, we don't show them to the actual size of the hole that was dug out on the field. The plan would just be covered with all these big boxes. So what we've done is, because there was a concern that maybe there are some holes in coverage for the test holes, we've actually put a note on the plans that's saying that prior to the installation, the coordination between the consultant for the town, the peer reviewer, the agent for the town, and the engineer for the project will go out there. And when they're going to install, they will actually verify the soils. And there was a concern about hitting ledge within 15 feet of the ground surface, which we don't believe you will, but you just wanted to make sure. So we're basically going to overdig a couple of them just to make sure that we're not going to have a restriction with the a ledge interface down there. So we've added these extra notes to the plan, basically to direct the construction and to nail that down. So what is approved eventually on this project will have that, on the plans.
Okay.
There's only one other item that the owner of this project has some construction equipment he wants to park on the site. So what we've done is we've given him a dedicated parking area that's surrounded by a containment berm. It's like a glorified speed bump. But
Okay.
all the drainage in that area goes to a trench drain, and then it goes to a proprietary treatment device. So instead of just a particle separator, we've elected to use a facility called Jellyfish, which actually is a cartridge that's specifically designed that if there are any type of drippings from hydraulic lines, that when it hits that, it will be captured by those cartridges and contained, and all the floatables will be contained. This has approval with many, many states, but there was a question about top testing and STEP. Well, Massachusetts STEP program stopped years ago. So in looking at DEP's Stormwater Handbook, basically it said that the commission is to be provided with enough documentation so they can make a determination that this facility, proprietary treatment facility, would be suitable for the intended use. I've done some more research, and in the latest report, I think I've got documentations from Minnesota on the Jellyfish with that top testing, and I think Wisconsin also, or Washington State. So there's a lot more supplementary information in there, so staff can see that and come to a conclusion that this is a viable type of treatment device for that containment area. We're not saying that this is an area of higher pollutant loading. It's just that there could be a potential for that because he's parking construction equipment there. So we just don't want to have any problems with anything going onto the pavement there and blowing by any of the facilities. So that basically is going to get contained in that proprietary treatment device.
What's the maintenance requirement for that? And if it goes into cartridges, where do they buy them?
The cartridges, to tell you the truth, you have a contract with Contact with the authorized representative.
Mm-hmm.
They come in with a vac truck and they suck the liquid out of that containment device, and then they unscrew the top of those cartridges and they actually vac that out, and it is taken to a processing facility. Everything is cleaned down, all that is vacked out, and then they add the materials to that plastic basket. It's too heavy to lift out, so that's how they maintain it. I've done a couple projects down in Maryland that have those type of cartridges, and it's a very interesting process. And it's not that expensive to change the cartridges out. And Contact has a program of monitoring, and that there's a telltale device on the top of the cartridges that says when it needs to be changed. But typically it's about 3 years between changing out of the cartridge. And if you don't have a loading onto it, it will last a little bit longer. But there is a maintenance schedule, and we provided all the Contact maintenance information in the report.
So basically you vac out the media that's doing the filtering and then you replenish it?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised, and that's how they did it. I thought they lifted those suckers out, but that's too heavy to lift out.
All right.
Any idea what material they use to separate?
It's organic. It's an organic blend of material. Like
Type of stone or?
No, it is a media of not quite a mulch, but more of organic peat and that type of material in there. So that basically has the water passing through that. And because of the organic nature of it, it just captures everything.
Okay, thank you.
Jennifer?
So we're waiting for John Chessia's final review and for the draft stormwater pollution prevention plan. But this plan is much improved over the last one, so thank you.
Yeah, we have given you the short-term construction phase pollution prevention plan in the report. We've given you a long-term. in the report also.
Is it on the most recent EPA
Yeah.
template?
No, that typically, and I noted that in the responses, that this project is subject to MPDES, and we have to do a formal SWIP, and that that normally comes once this is a little more codified, that we would get that put together, and we're suggesting that you make that a requirement, that before any work gets out there, that the SWIP and the filing, the ENOI for the SWIP get provided to the commission. But
Well,
again,
all our earlier discussions on this, we made it clear that the draft SWIP is something that we require during the public hearing process as part of Standard 8 for stormwater management. And then when you're ready to do construction, you just need the signature sheets.
Okay. All right. Well, then we will make sure you get that in the interim then.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Jennifer, any other staff comments?
No, that's it.
Okay, any public comments?
Nope.
All right, Samantha, Michael, I assume you'd like to continue this to the next meeting?
Well, we would like to, but we're going to ask.
All right. Gonna motion to continue this to the next Conservation Commission meeting on January 6th.
Thank you very, very much.
Well,
Benson
Rossman's
second.
Benson, yeah, I'll get it.
all right, Veshio motion, Benson second. Now you have a roll call vote, please.
Benson, aye.
Rossman, aye.
Veshio, aye. Thank you, Samantha and Michael. We'll
Thank
see next
you.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
You too. Happy holidays.
Hey, everybody. Up next is 154 and 154R Elm Street, notice of intent for the construction of stormwater management for a 4-lot subdivision road.
Good evening. For the record, Claire Hogaboom, wetland scientist with LEC Environmental Consultants representing the applicant.
Evening.
Claire, how are you?
I'm good. How's everyone doing?
Pretty good.
Great. I'll just share my screen and do a brief update here. Let me just make this a little wider. And we should be sharing.
It's loading.
All right.
You're in.
Great. So since we presented the project at the October 15th virtual meeting, Zenith Consulting Engineers had been working with the peer reviewer, Chesia Consulting. They're going through the peer review process with the planning board. They received a peer review comment letter and have been revising the plans to address those comments. Went back out to the site to conduct some test pits that were requested by the peer reviewer. So notably, what changed since we last showed you plans for this project is where my cursor is highlighting the previously proposed infiltration basin to the rear of the property is now a proposed detention basin. And the same thing goes with the other previously designed infiltration basins. So they're both now designed to function more as detention basins. And actually with the one in the further rear portion of the site, adjusting the design to be more of a detention basin allowed for some of the grading and work to be pulled a bit further away from the wetland boundaries themselves. I believe back in this portion of the site, this is exactly where grading was, but in the western portion of the site, or Plan North, it was a bit closer to the property boundaries. So now it's pulled back a bit there. Zenith provided the revised plans, a revised stormwater report in response to the stormwater peer review comments, I believe a little over a week ago. So we're just waiting on review and response to all of that information. So the stormwater loop is not entirely closed at this point, but I felt like it'd be a good check-in with the commission. It's been a while since we've talked about this one. LEC also submitted a response to Jen's staff report with a response to most of the other comments. Notably, we added a lot more conservation markers shown here on the green line work to the rear of the property. since the last plan set, some more landscaping trees have been proposed to the entrance of the site, although that's very beyond any buffer zones. We also provided a few conceptual plans to permitize. Jennifer requested that at the last meeting just to get an idea of alternatives that were briefly considered before going to this preferred alternative. Another notable comment Jennifer had, which was really great, was there's some invasive Japanese barberry in the rear portion of the site here, so the applicant's willing to remove that to the extent it's on site. And I understand this was a topic of conversation on a few previous filings, but Jennifer did mention that the commission would be requesting the draft SWIP prior to or during this process. The applicant's just respectfully requesting to provide it prior to construction. It's just a time-consuming document that would very likely be modified through the EPA NOI submission process. We're open to any safeguards, special conditions in the order of conditions to ensure that it is provided prior to any construction, but open to discussion with the commission. I understand that it seemed like a pretty steadfast rule from the last conversations I've heard.
Regular requirement, and mostly because I make a lot of edits to it. It's easier to make those now. The engineer should be actually designing things by sizing them correctly. Contractors, in my experience, have not done that correctly in the past, and that's why engineers usually come up with those. It lists a suite of things that are available to the contractor, and then the contractor can pick the one that they like best, but they've at least been designed properly for the site and for however much water or whatever land area they need to manage during construction. So that is something that we typically require during the public hearing process.
Okay, I'll have to circle back with Zenith on their timeline for that. I don't want to draw this out too long if it's not imminent on their list, but I'll get back to Zenith. Unfortunately, Bob was unable to join tonight. He has a conflict, so I'll touch base with him, and Jen, I'll get back to you sort of offline to go over schedule or what the next steps would be for that.
Yep. So we're still waiting for Chessia's review of this design. One thing that came up, and we have discussed it with town council as well, is basin number 2. There are 2 new point source discharges directly discharging toward the abutting property.
Okay.
And we feel like a drainage easement is likely needed for that adjacent property. You guys can discuss that with the engineers, but it seems likely that that is something that's needed.
Okay, so just so I'm getting it right in my notes, you spoke with town council about 2 new point source discharges directing towards the property line. They should discuss whether they need drainage easements on that abutting property.
Correct. There's water coming out of the emergency spillway or that discharge pipe, and it's going toward the property line. Then it's likely that an easement is required.
Okay.
The operation and maintenance plan seems to refer to hay bales. They should be straw, not hay.
O&M plan?
You may want to just check that.
No hay. All right. That may have been an oversight. I think.
We see it all the time. It's an easy oversight.
Yeah, those were the main issues that were sort of whittled down to now.
Okay.
Moving along, getting there.
Sure are.
Yeah, I think, Jennifer, that addressed basically every question that I had as well. Any members of the commission have further questions or comments regarding 154 and 154R Elm Street? Any members of the public here with comments for 154 and 154R Elm Street? So, Claire, while we're working through peer review and waiting on some information regarding the need for easements, we're going to continue this. Our next meeting is January 6th. Does that seem reasonable to have you back, or do you want more time?
that's reasonable for now, and I'll be in touch with Jen if we need to request a continuance.
That makes sense.
All right.
Motion to continue 154 and 154R Elm Street to the January 6th, 2025 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Vecchio second.
Carol motion, Vecchio second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Thank you all for your time. Happy holidays, and see you next year.
See you next year.
All right, take care.
I think I might have said January 2024 on a couple of the earlier ones. Hopefully, hopefully they don't get a time machine and come back.
Good.
Up next is 51 Rockland Street, which is a ANRAD. This applicant has requested a continuance to the next meeting. Is there anyone here to talk to us about that?
No, we have ECAT and Melissa left in the audience, so.
Fair enough. So motion to continue 51 Rockland Street to the January 6th, 2025 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Crossman, second.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Same thing, 36 Norfolk Ave, which is a notice of intent for the construction of a building addition, has requested a continuance. Assuming no further discussions warranted, motion to continue 36 Norfolk Ave to the January 6th, 2025 meeting of the Easton Conservation Commission.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Moving along to certificates of compliance. First up is 105 Washington Street.
We appear to be ready for a full certificate of compliance.
Sounds good. Motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for 105 Washington Street.
Crossman, second.
Carol motion, Crossman second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Crossman, aye.
Vecchio, aye.
Should I do the next two together? All right. 558 Foundry Street is requesting 2 certificates of compliance for work near a wetland.
And since we don't have the files or any plans, we have no idea what the project was for. The order of conditions doesn't really clarify it. And this is where they are currently constructing the Sawmill Village project. So they're all pretty much moot at this point anyway. So we can issue a full to close those out.
So it's an old COC with no records.
Correct.
And a new project permitted on the site. Motion to issue a full certificate of compliance for 558 Foundry Street ×2 for the, just being specific, for the old prior permit.
Vecchio, second.
Benson, second.
Carol motion, Benson second, roll call vote.
Benson, I.
Carol, I.
Vecchio,
I'm just trying to distribute them evenly. You know?
I see what you're doing. Hey, you're padding your stats. Padding Al's stats. That's what you're doing.
We are coming in on the end of the year. We got to get those numbers up. Up next is enforcement. First up is 60 Goldfinch in Brockton.
Correct. They are working with the fence contractor to relocate the fence and the rest of the plants that are on conservation property. So they're still moving along.
So if you'll recall from the last meeting, we had like a period of no contact from the property owner. It seems like they've come back and are working cooperatively with us, which is the best case scenario. So we're going to give them a little more time. I'm in favor of giving them more time to get their fence in.
Yes.
I don't think we need a vote. Up next on enforcement is 409, 413, 425 Turnpike Street.
Yeah. So their restoration plan was actually approved in December of 23. At that time, they said, oh, we're coming in with a notice of intent very soon, and that's when we'll do the work. It's been 2 years. So I did contact them and reminded them and asked what the status was, and they said, same thing. We're going to submit a notice of intent.
Do our enforcement order?
Totally different. Enforcement is different than a notice of intent.
Is there a timeline on it? Do they have a certain amount of time to comply?
You would probably reissue the enforcement order with a new date on it. The enforcement order would have said, you need to submit a restoration plan.
And they didn't they? Or no, they did not.
They did, and we approved it 2 years ago, but they
And then
haven't.
they just said, we'll get this done when we do our notice of intent.
Correct.
Ugh. That's my honest response.
2
It
years
just
is
feels,
too long.
I agree completely, but it just feels like going back in time for something that they've done and then not done. Yeah, I think it's probably the best way to get their attention and restart a conversation. I mean, like in my head, and I'd like this to be a little bit of a board discussion. I would like to see just file your notice of intent. We can do this in one fell swoop, but
Well, the
if you're
work
not-
restoration and enforcement order would still be separate, whether they file a notice of intent for future work or not.
Thank you.
We need to
Yeah.
keep those separate. But they need to also be working on it at this point.
Can you stipulate a date that the replanting has to occur by in that letter that you
Yes.
suggested?
Well, it can't occur until the spring at this point.
Can't. Yeah.
All right. Do you need a motion for an enforcement order?
Well, yeah, so you can either issue the enforcement order with the new date, or you can send the letter that says you need to start this work in, March.
Yeah.
And if you haven't by that date, whatever, April,
So
then
I
we
kind
can
of,
reissue the enforcement order. If you want to give them another shot, or if you want to just issue the enforcement order, you could do either of those, I guess.
I assume we've had some correspondence go unanswered.
No, well, yeah, for 2 years, we haven't
Well-
heard anything from them.
Yeah. But have we done anything to follow up with them in 2 years?
Yeah, my recent email was, hey, what's the status? And they said, yeah, we're gonna wait.
Okay.
Not-
Okay, I see. All right. I think let's just start with a letter, which I would be okay if they're responding to email with an email.
Sure.
Just essentially saying, look at this. These are two separate issues. You have to deal with the enforcement issue, and you submitted a mitigation plan. It needs to get mitigated.
Sounds fair.
Okay.
Would there be a carryover into the NOI if the enforcement order is not complied with?
You can set a condition that says you can't start any work on this new project until you finish the restoration work under the enforcement order.
That might be useful.
Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
we'll definitely do that.
So, turning next to board discussion, DOT appeal for Washington Street permit.
Correct. There's a lot of letters here. So
Yeah.
DEP sent a letter to DOT, the applicant, requesting more information, which ended up being the same information that we requested. So that was very nice. I think we just received DOT's response. I saw it Monday, so maybe it was Monday or Friday afternoon or sometime over the weekend, but I only saw it Monday and forwarded it to you guys. No, must have been, was it Friday?
You did email it to us. I think I
Sent it to
recall
you.
getting it early this week.
Well, today's
My,
Monday, so I'm confused
Yeah, then
by
it wasn't early this week. Must have been late last week.
it must have been Friday.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, yes, I thanked DEP, or sent the thank you to everyone. And then DEP did contact us today and ask if we had follow-up to DOT's response. And I said, yes. Would you like it in a letter, or would you like to do a phone call first? So we're working that out so we can talk about the issues before the end of this week.
Good.
Yeah.
Up next is review meeting minutes from 11/25/24.
I make a motion to accept the minute meeting, or the minutes as amended for the meeting of 11/25.
Carol second. So Benson vote. Carol
Benson,
second. Roll
aye.
call vote. Carol, aye.
Grossman, aye.
That's your eye.
The minutes pass. And now, Jen, you're up for open space and recreation plan update presentation.
Yes. And then do we have any other updates at the end of the meeting?
On chair updates, I just wanted to discuss, I don't know that anyone in Easton, or do you want me to do this now or do you want to wait?
Why don't we do any updates now? This way we can just do the open space plan and be done.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't know that any committees in Easton do this, but I've seen other towns have like a window at the front end of a meeting that allows for general public comment. And typically they'll limit it to 2 minutes. The board does not respond to the comments, but it allows sort of an avenue for aggrieved members of the public, people who are noticing things, to come before the board and just tell us about stuff. I think it might be useful and something to consider putting on the agenda and see how it goes. I think what would be very important about it would be to really kind of cap it at 2 minutes as we start this, and make sure everybody understands that we aren't responding to it. If it becomes something that needs to be responded to, it can become an agenda item. So that there's public notice around it and we comply with open meeting laws. But I think it would just allow like a direct point of communication between someone who has something to say and the entire committee, as opposed to folks like reaching out just to Jennifer or to members individually, which has kind of been the case, particularly with trail issues that have come up. Just a focal point, something I was thinking about. I don't feel that it needs to be something we do, but I think it'd be something we should consider. And if everybody's on board, I'd like to give it a test run.
I think it's a good idea.
I like it.
Yeah, same here. It's a great opportunity.
Kind of makes sense with the start of a new year.
Just in time.
Sounds good.
All right, so Jen, we can talk offline about whether or not we're even allowed to do that. I don't see why we wouldn't be. It just has to be on the agenda.
Yeah.
Does anyone else in town do it?
Not that I've seen, but I don't go to other board meetings. So.
Fair enough.
Except for CPC. I seem to go, I go to everyone else's meetings.
And go to them all.
So I must be at least 7 months worth of meetings.
I've seen, the towns I've seen do it: Falmouth, Brockton, Stoughton, and I think Sharon does it at a few of them. And I've seen, and just in passing, people will show up. Sometimes it becomes an avenue for people to sort of come and yell. But I've also seen it be pretty constructive, where people have interesting points that we should be thinking about. And I do think sometimes we get caught up in permits and we're not necessarily looking at everything as a commission. I'm not accusing you of this, Jennifer, but everything that we should probably be alert to that's going on.
Sounds good.
All right. So let's move on with the fun stuff. Open space recreation plan.
Okay, this is about a half an hour presentation. Does anyone need a little break ahead of time, or you want me to just crank on through?
I will entertain motions to adjourn. Not adjourn. Motions for a 5-minute break.
Second.
Yeah, second.
All right.
Too late.
Carol, motion. We're not adjourning. It's a 5-minute break. I just want to be clear. It's what everybody is voting on. Roll call vote.
Benson, aye.
Carol, aye.
That's when
Vecchio, aye.
See you all in 5.